Hi everyone, today we're going to be working on a 2012 Focus, and what we're going to be doing is cleaning out the intake valves by taking off the intake manifold, because this is a direct injection engine, and typically what happens is the intake valves get filled up with oil deposits and carbon because the injectors are not actually cleaning off the valves, since the injectors are injecting directly into the engine. So I'm going to show you how to take it all apart, put it back together, and also clean the valves. There's some special processes that you have to do to make sure you get the valves clean, and also a way that you won't damage your engine when you do this, because there is a potential that you could do that by getting too much cleaner down into the cylinder itself. So we're going to start by going underneath the car and removing the undercarriage tray. And before that, we're also going to be jacking up the car. So here we are. You have to take off this bottom belly tray to get this some bolts at the bottom of the intake manifold. They're just a Torx bit. I believe there's like 8 of them. So the next part of this, we have to take the wheel off. So I did that. It's pretty simple. Make sure your car's jacked up to do that. The next thing we're going to do is take off the fender well, because we have to get to the crank pulley, because when we're cleaning out the valves, we need to be able to rotate it over to the intake valves are closed. So these are pretty simple. You got rivets here, and you got some screws here, and then I think some screws on the bottom. I got 2 here. Here. So there's 2 screws under here. And then there's another rivet. Get in between it. Just pry it open. Don't have this tool, just use a screwdriver. Don't forget this one up in here. So now it should fall out. Take this off to your intake. Unclip this. This one clip, there's a little tab right here. Just want to push it up out of the way with your finger or your thumb, and you push forward a little bit, and then come backwards, and then move that out of the way. So next you're going to undo this little tab right here, pull that out. So you're going to take this little tab lock out. Don't lose that. Push the tab in right here, and it'll come out. You're also going to want to then put it back in so you don't lose it. Take your little tool here to then take out the Christmas tree thingy. That's why I call them Christmas tree thingies. Okay, so the next thing, you don't have to disassemble this. You can just now pull off the snorkel. Make sure you got enough slack in your worm gear clamp. Don't hold on to that. Push that out of the way. Then this should just lift up, out. And that's your box. It locks onto this tab here, this one right there, and then this one right there. Yours might come out very difficult. Just make sure you're pulling up with firm, equal pressure. Then we're going to take off this worm gear clamp. It's kind of hard to get to, so I would just use a ratchet, 7mm. Get it undone really well, and then now it should just come off like that. And that gives you access to the bolts to take the throttle body off. So next thing, we're going to be taking the throttle body off. It's 4 bolts. Be very careful. These are very sensitive. If you break them, it will just, your car will not allow you to drive. There's correlation going on between this device and your throttle or your pedal. It's got another red lock. Just gonna scoot those off. This one might not come out, so the next thing you want to do is just pop it out of this little clip down here. Just come from behind with your finger, pop it out there. Press on the tab right here. You should be able to pop it out. So move the wire out of the way. So now you can safely remove the 4 bolts. They are 8mm. So now we're going to remove the 4 bolts, the 4 8mm bolts to the throttle body. See this last one, you're going to hold it because it's going to break free. The bolts are loose, and it should just come right off like that. And you want to be careful. This is a rubber. Pause it. So typically on the back side of these, they'll be dirty. This one actually looks pretty good. If yours is like really dirty, like black, clean it off with some seafoam. The carbon coating that gets on the back of these can cause your car to idle poorly. Also, this surface right here, be very careful with, because it's a planed surface, to make sure that it lines up with that rubber gasket. So this one has a light, a bit of light carbon coating on the bottom of it. If I wipe it down here, you can kind of see it come off there on the paper towel. We're going to clean that off. You can open these up a little bit, but be very careful with it and watch your fingers. So this little red thing here, the red thing is going to stay on there, and you need to walk this vacuum line off. So you kind of press at the bottom, at the top. And it's very tricky to get in here and film at the same time, but you want to see how it's cocked like that, and then you go to the cock side, press that in, and then the hose should finally just pop out. And then you just move that. Come up here and pop that out because it's very fragile, and just set that out of the way. Okay, so these, you're going to want to take these green tabs. You want to see how it comes separate like that. There's one on the back side here. You're going to ever so slightly push that one out, and this green lock is going to come out. That's what holds it in. Next, there's a button on the top, and you press the button now, and now it'll come off. Like so. So you can place it back in there so you don't lose it. Now it should just snap right back on. Push that out of the way. So the next thing, I've already separated these. You just use your tool right here, and you pop the wire off. They're attached to the manifold. There's one up here, and then there's just one right here. You just kind of like pry it out. So that'll allow you to move it out of the way. So this one you're going to push right here to get this wire out of the way, this wire loom, and then you're just going to pull it apart like that. Push this one, get it out of the way, and then there's going to be another wire connector down there that we're going to disconnect here. We go from underneath the car and disconnect it like that. And then you're going to want to take this off this little hook. So you're just going to get your little tool up in there and kind of wiggle it out. Okay, so now it should just come out like that. that goes to the knock sensor. So the next thing we have to take out is that bolt. I believe it's 10 millimeter. So next you're going to take this little connector out here. Once you get it most of the way, you reach your hand down there and just pop it out. Like so. They get pretty mangled up, but don't worry about it. They'll still stick. So we're just going to push some of this stuff out of the way because we're ready to take the manifold out. So the reason why we took that out is that's attached to the manifold. So now we're just going to take these 10 millimeter bolts out. There's 5 of them. There we go. So if you use a 1/4 inch dry socket, you should be able to get in there no problem. Come on, do this a little bit even. So there's one back here on the left of the manifold. You're gonna need a 1/4 inch drive just to be able to get it in there because it's pretty tight. But once you break it free, you can just get it out with your fingers and the extension. Now we got the right extension. So you're gonna get your magnet to get these bolts out. Socket back down there and just put your magnet and then get it out. So now the manifold should come out and it should actually break free. Ta-da. So now we need to fish the manifold out. So this wire should get out of the way. It's going to be one over here that we have to get undone that we couldn't get to. It's that one right there. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. So you might need some long needle nose pliers. And they'll just break. Those aren't a big deal if they break. They're just there to hold the loom in place. We can try to zip tie them when we get back to putting it back together. So the next thing you gotta do is it's gonna be a tube on the back that you gotta get out. That is part of the crankcase ventilation. Undo this oil air separator from the crankcase. It's gonna be a little bit tricky, but you just press these tabs to separate the locking pin, and then you pull backwards. And now the manifold will just lift right out. So you want to be careful with these O-rings. They're reusable. If you come over here, the intake faceplate. These are all plain surfaces, so they are very flat across here. So don't use anything super abrasive on them. So next thing, these manifolds are plastic. And you gotta be very careful about the solvents that are used on them. Obviously, gasoline's okay, so I use seafoam. But what you do is you want to test a little spot right here, and if it was bad, what would happen is the plastic would start to melt. Brake cleaner probably isn't the greatest thing for this stuff. Some brake cleaners are more aggressive than others, and they'll melt plastic. But you see here, the plastic is not melting at all. So now we're going to clean the throttle body off just with a toothbrush. Very non-abrasive. Having a little cup helps. Just pour the seafoam in there. That way you can dip the brush. Just getting all that carbon buildup off. So the reason why this is a problem is that these newer drive-by-wire systems don't have idle air controller motors. They control the idle through the throttle plate, through the motor in there, and they pretty much just the carbon just creates a ridge in there and creates a blockage, so then it has to keep on opening up the throttle plate more and more and more until finally it reaches the point where it won't open it up, because to the computer's point of view, you're off idle at that point. So it might do some throttle surging, something like that, or a rough idle. But be careful here. This is a plain surface. See how shiny machined it is. Don't mess that up. The other portion you want to look out for is on the valve itself, the butterfly portion. You want to clean that, and then where it seats. Kind of see that ridge in there where it was been seating. That's the ridge that over time just gets built up. So just take your time, clean it off. If this is plastic, just be very careful of the solvents you use, because they can basically melt the plastic. And if you melt the plastic where this sealing surface is at, you're going to run into idle problems when you put this back together. And you don't want to do this on the car, because you can't get behind it, and also these things have a lot of torque in them. These motors, they can definitely hurt your fingers. You don't want to mess up the positioning. The computer is very sensitive to the position on these, since they're drive-by-wire. There's the way they check these is there's 2 sensors on the pedal that run in opposite directions of voltage. So if your car gets a pedal or a throttle positioning sensor mismatch correlation error, it has something to do with that. Okay, I'm just going to wipe it down, and we'll be done. So don't let it snap close. And that's that. Nice and clean. It's ready to go back in the car. There's your crank bolt right there in the middle. 21 millimeter. Only turn clockwise. Okay, so you only want to turn this clockwise. If you go counterclockwise, it could mess up the cam chains in there and cause it to unload. So only clockwise. And what you're going to do is you're looking in your cylinder hole or your intake holes for when the valve closes, because you want your solvent to just sit in there and start breaking up all that carbon coking. So if you can see in here, it's going to be kind of hard to see. I have the left side filled up with solvent. The right side's not filled up. This is cylinder number 4. So the way that you fill that up, you take a funnel, point it to the right side, and you just pour some seafoam in there. And you have to do one at a time because it's kind of hard to tell which intake valves are open and which ones are closed. Then what you're going to do is you take a nice soft bristle brush and just clean in there. This will break it all up. And get the intake valves nice and clean. Now again, the only reason why we're doing this is because this is a direct injection engine. You see here, here's the fuel rail. These don't point at the intake valves. They're inside the cylinder. These inject fuel when the piston is coming up, which is different from port injection, which fires the injector when the valve is opening. If the injector is before the intake, it's going to help clean those valves, those intake valves off. That doesn't happen with direct injection because it's getting directly injected into the cylinder itself. Obviously, there's advantages and disadvantages. With direct injection, you can get better combustion, less emissions, and produce more power overall. But then again, you run into this problem where you have to take off your whole manifold just to clean off the intake valves because it's not being naturally cleaned as you're driving. So one of the things to pay attention to when you have the fluid down in here, if you accidentally put it down a hole that has the valves open, you're going to pour all that fluid into your combustion chamber and cylinder. If you then go to crank the engine, you could hydrolock the engine and bend your connecting rods. So take your spark plugs out and turn the engine over by hand before you do any starts with it. This way the fluid will just come out the spark plug hole, and then you can just dry it up with a towel at that point. But you might have to let this fluid sit in here for a while if they're pretty coked up. So the cylinder 1 or cylinder 4, you know, it's got a little bit left in it still. Very hard to see that, but yeah, after, you're supposed to do this around 100,000 miles. So, it might take a little while to let the fluid work in there and really break apart all that carbon. But this should help improve fuel economy, keep the engine running good, because now you're not slowing down the air volume coming in there. And potentially even, so much carbon building up that it gets on the surface of the valve and prevents it from closing. So when you get this done, you're going to be scrubbing for a while. This stuff works wonders after you get it cleaned out a little bit, because this will cut through all the carbon coking very well. You're going to have to use an assortment of brushes for agitating it down in there. Getting a blow nozzle down in there really helps to basically break up any of the carbon. It's going to come flying out at you, so shield yourself. But to give you an idea of what it looks like, that's what it cleans out of there. This towel was blue. Now it's blue. Looks like poo. Okay. So again, there's what a dirty one looks like. Sorry about the lighting. So it gets the intake runners all nice and clean, and gets, most importantly, those valves and stems cleaned. So now all the valves are clean and it's ready to go back together. Okay, so now we got the intake back in. Don't forget to hook up your crate case ventilation. So if you remember, that's our connector we broke, so I got a zip tie going around that one to put it in place so we don't have to buy the one from Ford. That would probably cost $1 million. So I'm going to zip tie that, and then I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. So now you see that in place, cut off the excess. Okay, so these intake manifold bolts have a torque spec. It's very important you get them right. It's critical torque. It's 20 Newton meters, not foot pounds. If you use foot pounds, you're going to snap the bolt. So I got it on a little magnet, I think, here, because it's going to be hard to put through. So you have to go through and finger tight these first. So you get it in there. That way you get it started. And there's also a sequence to these. So the middle one is the first one. So we're going to use that one to kind of get it in place. And then I'll tell you what the rest is here in a second. Okay. Okay, so the torque sequence on these is critical. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th one you have to get from the bottom. These are kind of a pain to get in, especially the center one. So again, we're going to use our little trick here with a magnet. Put it in there, and then get our socket on there, and only finger tight these to start. So over here, you don't need to use the magnet. It's out there and open. Get this wire back over and get it out of the way. Might help us. Of course, you need to leave it open so you can get back to the center ones and torque them. Now I'm going to do one on the bottom. It's pretty self-explanatory, so we're not going to show you that one. Okay, so now we're going to torque these in sequence. If you want to see, it's 20 Newton meters. So we can toggle between that. It's 177 inch-pounds, 14.75 foot-pounds, 20 Newton meters. So we do center. Fifth one. Now the final one underneath the car. Okay, we're all torqued. Okay, so now we can put some of our wire loom back on here. foot. It went in. All right. Should just click in there. Took it off this tab. Don't forget to put that on. Let's see, there. So now we're putting back in our throttle body that we cleaned up. This also requires a certain torque sequence and also torques back. Just want to get things finger tight first. Helps to have the right socket. These are 8mm. We got them finger tight. Don't plug it in yet. And now we need to torque it. So we're going to torque this to 10 Newton meters in a cross pattern. I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we just have to plug it back in. Don't forget to press your red lock in and snap that in place. So next, we can take our hose or vacuum line for our brake booster and put it in the red slot down here. That should just snap in. And then don't forget to snap your vacuum line in up here. Okay, so next, don't forget to hook up your knock sensors under here. I had a connector, or I had a connector anchor brake, so I just put another zip tie on it right there. So now we're at the stage where you want to make sure that all your connections are connected. Obviously, we don't have the air box in yet, or the snorkel, so we have things not connected here. We also have our spark plugs and coils out. We're going to crank the engine over in flood mode. I'll show you how to do that, just to make sure that if anything fell in the cylinder, it's just going to pop it out. The spark plug holes, make sure these connectors are on, make sure everything's secure. Don't forget these. When we do the flood mode crank, the air box will be in as well. So the next thing we're going to do, because all my connections look good, all my wires are in place, I am going to put in the air box now. Okay, so we're putting the air box in now. You see I have these 3 anchor points. If you want to have an easy time going in and having it come out again, use some silicone. This is just some heavy duty sanitary lubricant I have. So silicone lube is good because it doesn't break down plastics. You just kind of smear it on. This way it'll just pop right into place and you don't have to fight it. So I also want to put some silicone in where your snorkel is, just so it slides on nice and easy. You don't have to do this, but if you're a person that works on your car by yourself, future self will thank you a lot. So now we're going to put the snorkel on and the air box. Put the snorkel on first. So you see how easy that slid on there? You can go ahead and connect up your emission lines. It should just pop right on. You don't have it torqued down because we need to put the air box in next. So you're going to want to hold this up, and there's 3 holes here that you have to line up with. There's a hole here, there's one over here behind the battery box, and then there's one right here. So because we put silicone on there, it should just drop right in. Now you should get you should hear it lock, or you should feel it lock in. Also, you want to make sure you get this tab down in here, but if this tab won't go on this piece of rubber, it means you're not locked in. So if you come in behind here on the back, the battery, you should be able to feel it. and then you see it pop in, and then now it should be lined up. And that one popped in, and that one's in too. So now this should be able to go over there relatively easy. And then now you can just lock that down. And then your snorkel should be on there. You want to come over here with your mass airflow sensor. Plug that in. Don't forget the red lock. Put your Christmas tree back in. Final thing, you need to tighten this one up and this one up. So let's see. These don't have to be very tight. A ratchet. Using an electric ratchet, don't overdo it. That should be good. All right, so the next thing, we're just going to roll the engine over in flood mode. And the way you do that is you just hold the gas pedal down while the engine cranks. That shuts the injectors off. Here we go. Okay, so the reason why we did that was to make sure that if there's any fluid that got into the cylinder, we cleared it out. Because if you put too much fluid in the cylinder and you go to crank with compression, it could break your connecting rod. So now we're going to put our spark plugs back in, and then after that we're going to put our coils back in. So these are tapered spark plugs, so once you bottom out, then you're only going to go about a 1/16 of a turn. It's not much. So the next thing we're going to do is put our coils back in. Okay, so putting our coils back in, we're going to put some dielectric grease right here to prevent corrosion on the plugs. These are real simple. You just drop right down in there like that. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put our bolts back in. Don't over torque these because these are just brass nuts and plastic. Last, plug them in. So now everything's all set. We're going to go start the car. We're only going to be running for a split second just to make sure it starts. Make sure you're in a well ventilated area if you're going to keep it running. So don't keep your garage door closed. Here we go. So we did a good job. Car didn't blow up. Rev's great. I was hitting the rev limiter there. So you heard it kind of not go past a certain RPM. Job's all done. The wheel well is still out. I left that out for now. I have to do some more work, but it should be easy enough. If you tackle this job, you should be able to get a wheel well in no problem. Thanks for watching.